In the end, the only events in my life worth telling are those when the imperishable world erupted into this transitory one. That is why I speak chiefly of inner experiences, amongst which I include my dreams and visions. These form the prima materia of my scientific work. They were the fiery magma out of which the stone that had to be worked was crystallized. I arrived early at the insight that when no answer comes from within to the problems and complexities of life, they ultimately mean very little. When I first read this passage by Jung, it resonated because I already knew it was true. There were moments in my life when nothing outside could tell me what to do. No advice, no theory, no belief system. I was alone, in the dark, disoriented, full of doubt, until something surfaced from within. Usually not words, but images, sometimes a dream, sometimes a synchronistic moment that oriented me towards my next step, although I could not yet understand it. Looking back, those inner events shaped my life far more than anything that happened outwardly. A lot of the time I feel that the outer events happened exactly for the inner events to be born. As Jung frames it, our dreams and intuitions come to us from the imperishable, unconscious realm. No intellectual theory or religious teaching can explain this unconscious dimension. It remains forever unknown, too great of a riddle for human beings to solve. Just as a small fish could never swallow a whale or realize the vastness of the ocean that contains it, this realm is ungraspable to us. What we can know, to a limited degree, are the symbolic contents that emerge from it. They rise from invisible depths, like fish brought to the surface, and these we can cook and digest with consciousness. These surfacing contents point toward a creative intelligence greater than the ego. It may appear as a personal, anthropomorphic figure, a positive personification such as the inner Christ, the Buddha, or the inner Jung. It can also appear as a negative personification, a dark, frightening figure. Or it may appear impersonally as a mirror, a mandala, or a paradoxical pair of opposites. Although we human beings have our own personal life, we are yet, in a large measure, the representatives, the victims and promoters of a collective spirit whose years are counted in centuries. We can well think all our lives that we are following our own noses and may never discover that we are, for the most part, supernumeraries on the stage of the world theater. Thus, at least a part of our beings lives in the centuries. Until around 10 years ago, I believed my struggles were mine alone. They were my personal confusions, my conflicts, my pain. Through my encounter with Jung's work, I began to see that I was living out archetypal patterns, much older than myself. That realization was sobering, challenging, and also relieving. It meant I was participating in a collective becoming. By working consciously on myself, I could contribute to the transformation of the collective field we all swim in. That understanding is one of the roots of this channel. This shared dimension of the psyche is what links us back to the whole. It breaks our sense of alienation from others, from life, and from ourselves. This timeless layer is the source of dreams, creativity, meaning, and also illness, symptoms, tension. Every symbolic image carries a message uniquely shaped for our personal journey, for our individuation, and at times for the collective situation we are part of. If no conscious dialogue develops between consciousness and the unconscious, no deep insight and no living relationship between the two can grow. This calls for a conscious balancing of the dominant rational intellectual function of our time with the subterranean functions of intuition and feeling, of relating to the other, inwardly and in the world. Every dream image symbolizes something psychic in the dreamer. For example, if a dreamer is being chased by a dark figure, this may symbolize a repressed psychic aspect that the ego refuses to acknowledge in itself. The unconscious presses for that change of attitude. That pressure, when ignored or numbed, keeps adding up until our inner and outer realities are too painful to bear, and we either face it or break. From experience, knowing this does not make it easy. I have had dreams that were clear in what they asked of me, and I ignored them. I explained them away, delayed, and simply did not want to know, because knowing carries responsibility and demands action. Each time I resisted, life became more difficult and repetitive, and the pressure grew. It took me a while to understand that this pressure is a form of care, a discomfort that pushes me toward growth and out of my shell. It is the act of the unconscious insisting on a change of attitude I was not yet willing to make. At times, dreams appear to depict people or situations from the outer world, but as a rule, dreams speak primarily about our own psyche and our attitude towards life. Dreams either compensate for the one-sidedness of the conscious personality, or complement what consciousness lacks, what has become narrow or insufficient. As in patterns of behavior, feeling, thinking, that once served us and now are an obstacle for who we should become. Obviously, it is painful to let something that carried us through life die, and we refuse this transformation. The agenda is wholeness. The danger lies in one-sidedness, stubbornness, and inflation, a rigidity either full of pride or marked by self-negation. I am all-powerful, or I am nothing. Both are false. There came a moment in my life when I realized I was not the only one in charge of this process of becoming. For years, I lived as if I had the power to create myself by sheer will, as if I were the only one writing my story. Nietzsche spoke to that inflated part of me, but Jung showed me another reality. Something deeper than the ego is also at work in shaping my life. And so, my task is to cooperate with courage and to listen, not to dominate. It was during one of the most painful periods of my life, when my younger brother was in the hospital facing a series of surgeries, and his chances of survival were very low. In that moment, I had a crucial choice to make. I could surrender to reality, remain present and support him and others around me, or I could refuse to accept it, withdraw, and collapse inwardly, the way I had learned to do when fear takes over, and I could feel it happening around me. The fate of my brother lay beyond my will. I confronted my powerlessness directly, and that realization was humbling, to say the least. It led me to seek a relationship with what Jung called the self, a center of ordering beyond the ego. I was needing support that I couldn't get from anything in the world around me. When my compulsion to control weakened, and I accepted the limits of my will, something in me reoriented inwardly. That orientation has remained with me since. Jung described this attitude as a conscious surrender, letting things happen. In his commentary to the ancient alchemical text, The Secret of the Golden Flower, Jung wrote, "The art of letting things happen became for me the key that opens the door to the way. It is an attitude that accepts the irrational and the incomprehensible simply because it is happening." At the center of this process lies the immortal nucleus of the soul, a transpersonal center. We offer our tribute to this center by attending to its creations, especially dreams and intuitions, by giving them expression through art, by seeking to understand them, and by applying what we learn concretely in our daily lives. According to Jung, paying attention to dreams, writing them down diligently, and attempting to understand them are powerfully healing. It helps orient us through psychic conflict and disorientation. This attitude towards dreams strongly supports the process of becoming ourselves and becoming more whole. Dreams are a means of self-regulation and maturation if we take them and the inner world seriously.